Julie, welcome to the show today.
Thank you, Stan. Good to see you again.
It's great to see you again, too. And if you could, just for the audience who's listening around the world, folks who don't know you, just describe a little bit about your background. You have a tremendous journey, really impressive background yourself. And then obviously would love to hear more about what Democracy Investments does.
Thank you. Yes, I started my career in the Navy, actually, and listening to the previous panelists, I was reflecting on the important mental health and suicide prevention programs for those who serve. And it's really exciting to see all the advancements going on in the world. Today, I run a fund that at a very high level rewards democracies and encourages authoritarians to become more democratic. I use the same all-world ex-US index that's in most of your general international index strategies, but I neutrally tilt to award democracies. And our methodology uses the Economist Democracy Index, which rewards countries that have more women in government, freedom of speech, free media, freedom of internet. So all the issues we're talking about today are rewarded. And interestingly, when you look under the covers, democracies generally have better health, mental health and physical health, because most of the health vulnerabilities we see are a direct result of human rights violations. And my methodology takes that into account, whereas the other, even the large ESG funds, interestingly, their top holdings include two very well-known tech companies that contribute to an authoritarian surveillance state.
That's specifically and really unbelievably accurate. We love to hear that. And it's important to understand even when healthcare systems become destabilized, like what we've seen during the pandemic, we see democracies become destabilized. And so it's important to understand that there's a direct correlation here within the ecosystem that you're working in and all the good work that you're doing. And as public health professionals here, our audience wants to help out. They want to certainly do whatever they can do to understand this as a macro issue, but then understand how digital can play a part in this. So talk a little bit more about the correlations between democracies around the world and mental health and women's health and what you've seen from your global view there and all the work that you're doing.
Sure. Well, we've all seen that populism and extremism are serious threats to democracy. In addition to mental health challenges, there's also the substance abuse disorders. There's the technology contributing to misinformation and disinformation. Democracies that thrive ensure civil engagement, and they used evidence-based policy. They encourage social mobility, freedom from corruption, freedom of thought. On the contrary, authoritarians are constraining knowledge, and they may even use brute force and technology to control people. In authoritarian states, we see more conflicts and warfare, and that has a long-term destabilization effect, not only on veterans, but the brain health of their families. So that, combined with the increase we're seeing in the lack of hope and despair, that actually the deaths of despair, so suicide, alcohol and drug-related deaths, have lowered the life expectancy in the US. So it's important. The good thing about democracies, they're looking at these digitization strategies and taking notice. And we just saw a TikTok ban in one of our states. So democracies, to be effective, they need to have a well-informed population. They need to be resilient to foreign influence, and they need to provide a capacity for effective public debate. So regulating these digital platforms is going to be critical to preserve democracy and stop the extremism and populism that we're seeing around the world. Sadly, democracy is in decline. It is not. The scores are not going up every year. Certain democracies are getting better, but in general, the trends are downward. Interestingly, there are 46 countries in my preparation for this, I found, that have national suicide prevention programs. And some that have seen good results from that include Denmark, the UK, Switzerland, the Philippines, and South Korea. So there's something that can be learned for national strategies. And then all these predictive technologies. Also important are education systems that foster optimal early brain development. The young minds of the future need to be protected and protected from too much tech so they can develop appropriately. We need them for the future.
That's fantastic. And give us a little bit of an update on democracy investments and the fund and some of the things that, some of the technology, some of the life science and healthcare technologies that you have invested in, taken a stake in some of the world's leading democracies.
Yeah, I'm just back from a large conference in Florida where we got very good feedback. Our fund is over 2 years old now, and that is, and for a passive index strategy, we have done very well relative to the benchmark market cap only strategies that just look at company size. I start with that same basket of stocks and then neutrally reweight them according to the country's democracy score. So I'm not picking specific stock, but I'm in all the same sectors. So we have the same healthcare technologies and healthcare companies in our fund, but you're getting more in the democratic countries that support all the things we just talked about, and you have less in the authoritarians. And the reason we don't screen any country out is because when would you let them back in? When they improve their democracy score. Also, this way, we've created a strategy that incentivizes improvement. As if we get to be as big as a Vanguard fund, all countries will be incentivized to improve their democracy score to get more capital. The strategies that screen out, it's great, but there's actually not a lot of evidence out there that by screening out, you're having impact because companies are not incentivized to take action to improve.
That's fantastic. And certainly, from the audience that's listening to you around the world and the folks that are tuned in, how can poor mental health be a weakening factor for democracies in terms of your experiences and what you've seen, some of the research you've read?
Yeah, so it's weakening, generally because of misinformation and social media being weaponized to increase polarization and tear countries apart. There's actually an excellent book called Twilight of Democracy that was the story of what happened in Poland that kind of brings it all together, and it's a very quick read. People want to read more about that. Yeah, so authoritarians use media and disinformation as a weapon. And I mean, it's hard to know if you're talking to a bot or somebody real. And it's so important now to make sure you know what information is real, and you use social media in small doses so it doesn't contribute to poor mental health. That's right. That's exactly right. And in terms of some of the like the ETF, I think you have an ETF now, or what are some of the things that Democracy Investments is doing now to, and some of the ways that the folks that are listening can get involved to help out and support? So we have one product now. It's an ETF, so it's very liquid. It's listed on the New York Stock Exchange. The ticker symbol is DMCY, and you can get more information and read important disclosures at democracyinvestments.com. It's fantastic. And just full disclosure, and I don't have any money with this ETF or any of this fund or anything like that. And I don't think anyone that the lab does either, unless Ainsley and Jerry are doing some investing on the side without disclosing on their conflicts of interest. So we're literally putting Julie together here with you all so that hopefully there's a way that we can all support this and really try to help support healthcare and democracies globally. Because again, from my understanding, Rachel, you do have a number of different healthcare companies that your fund and your ETF is tracking on or investing in, or whatever the word is, I guess, right? Yep. Yeah. So we're in every large cap or mid cap healthcare company that's in your typical international index strategy. We're just giving more to democracies and less to authoritarians. It's fantastic. So that's really solid news. And in terms of how we can help you out, what can the community here, and just again looking through the folks who are in attendance right now, you have people who are high net worth individuals. You obviously have folks who are CEOs of digital health companies. You've got a number of different scientists. You've got physicians who are, again, high net worth individuals as well. You've got executives with major healthcare organizations, hospitals, health plans, life science companies, and then a lot of venture funds, certainly. And so
what can they do to help your fund, aside obviously from, spending, $23 it looks like it's trading at right now for buying whatever, I guess you get a share or something of the ETF or something. I'm not a finance guy, I'm a tech guy, remember. So anyway, the idea is that, is there a way for them to volunteer? Can they be a venture partner? Can they do, how can they help Democracy Investments really spread the word and, and that sort of thing?
Yeah, well, the best thing you could do would be to follow us on social media, but we were only active on LinkedIn. Follow me and Democracy Investments on LinkedIn, and please share our strategy with your friends, family, with your networks, with your advisor. We're a new fund, we're not a Vanguard, and so we are word of mouth. And the most helpful thing you could do is buy a little, see if you keep an eye on us, and share our strategy with your friends and family.
That's fantastic. No, absolutely. And we'll certainly get the word out there. And again, if any of you have any questions, Ainsley had put the contact information for Julie within the page, within the chat box. And so certainly, look her up. We did have a question come in from somebody about the general barriers to adoption of health tech. And, obviously healthcare technology it includes pills, it includes biotechnology, it includes medical devices, and obviously now, computer sciences and digital health, whether it's telemedicine platforms or whether it's things like digital health therapeutics, et cetera. So what have you seen, Julie, in terms of some of the ways that democracies are helping overcome some of the barriers to access to medical technologies like pills and electronic health records and things like that?
Well, democracies tend to be more progressive and open-minded. They do more, as I said, they do more evidence-based policy, and you see more corruption in the authoritarian states. So generally, it's much easier for a tech company to get financed. It's a stronger, more vibrant VC community, and you don't see that with authoritarian states. So, yeah. So generally, it's those economy. I mean, I can think of maybe one or two authoritarians that have a strong financing community for that sector. Otherwise, it's democracies is where it's all happening, and democracies encourage innovation and support innovation across country lines as well. Whereas you do not see that. Generally, authoritarians have to steal the innovation and steal the tech.